Go ahead, Mr. Butler.
Thank you.
Okay. Members of the council, thank you for what you're doing today. I feel somewhat regretful being here because it is so late in this process, and I commend you for staying open to hearing all sides at this late date. Frankly, I don't come down to the council very often. I haven't been down here in several years, but this issue is quite pivotal, and I think it's important to take some pause to think about the consequences. I first got involved in working with the water utility some 30 years ago. I look around and I don't see anyone as old as me anymore, so it's different. But having done that and having written the ordinance that created the Water and Wastewater Commission that has advised the city and the utility, and having moved to take a job at the Lower Colorado River Authority in 1986, after having voted as a citizen and as a member of the Water and Wastewater Commission, I believe I was co-chair, in favor of Water Plant 4, but with the stipulation that it not be built until it's really needed. I went to the LCRA, and the LCRA entered into a contested situation with the City of Austin over Water Plant 4. I was very directly involved in the formation and the contesting of the Water Plant 4. The settlement between LCRA and the City of Austin was to not really even discuss Water Plant 4 for at least 11 years. That's how the demand and supply were out of kilter at that time. I think looking back at that time, I believe it was $19 million a year in principal and interest on the bonds that would have been issued to pay for that first phase. We've saved 22 years of $19 million a year for that plant. We've made many other improvements. We've spent a lot of money in the meantime, but on a dollars per gallon, we've saved fortunes for our citizens as a result of measuring twice and cutting once. I had the opportunity to spend some time in California in the late 1980s and early 1990s while working for the City of Austin on a project, the BCCP, and I was able to fly over Southern California with the general manager of the Metropolitan Water District during the Great Drought of California, 1987 to 92. One of the consequences of that drought was that because Californians learned to conserve water, by the end of the drought in 1993, the Metropolitan Water District had a deficiency in their water revenues on the order of $300 million, and they had to raise rates. They requested a rate increase of 11% simply to make up for the conservation attainments of their various customers. I think what this means to me is that not only do we have to do conservation aggressively and intensively, and I commend the council members who are already on board to do that, but there's two ways to do conservation, and I'm speaking from my own professional experience. I'm a professor of water resources planning at the University of Texas. I teach in this area. I've done a lot of work with utilities. There's front door and back door water conservation. Front door water conservation is when you declare goals and policies, you develop good, reasonable measures to attain those measures, and you do what you can, and you should be able to attain those. And there are various ways to do that. The savings is that you don't spend nearly as much money on capital improvements. You save on the capital improvements, but at the same time, you have the option of doing what is before you now, which is the backdoor approach. Take a supply-side approach, build large capacity with excess capacity to a level that is, as you're hearing today, and I regret being here, but I think the excess capacity here is lavish, unnecessary, and not fiscally prudent. The backdoor approach means that we can stretch our utility capacity with excess capacity for a longer time than what the projections show. And I'm thoroughly convinced, in my own opinion, that we will save tremendous amounts of water. We will raise rates significantly higher than what has been projected by the utility. We will find people who will tell you, and you'll be frustrated, that they are totally uninformed by this whole process as they end up paying rates that they had no idea they would be subjected to without any noticeable benefits. And I think the good corporate interests that are here today and have been for the last several months are telling you sincere stories about their concerns for reliability. We all share that. But I think there are equally, if not more, corporate interests and future corporate interests coming to Austin who will be looking for a reliability of an entirely different sort. In my 30 years in working with the Austin Water Utility, I've seen a lot of changes. I've seen a lot of tumultuous arguments. This one is being handled fairly pacifistically. I don't think there's a lot of yelling. There's anger and resentment, but I'm afraid that you're going to be seeing some things in the next few years that will be deep resentment of the utility and the council for not carefully looking at the zero net additional revenue scenario that we are likely to face with aggressive conservation and the consequences on paying our debt payments on such large supply-side approaches. If we were ready for this, I would be willing to say that we're just going to spend a lot more money on utility capacity, and we'll learn to conserve by the economic principles of marginal cost and the elasticity of demand. And we will. But honestly, I don't think our planning is ready either. As a planner, I feel that our water and wastewater master plan really should be done well before we take on such a vast supply-side approach. Our specific projects on the environment are not ready. I have spent a long number of years of my life working for the city on endangered species, and I don't see a plan ready that will protect the species that are threatened in this area yet. And on the equity side, I see an issue of fairness to people who have
That buzzer was a signal for your 6 minutes.
Sir. I don't see representation of the equitable interests as well. So I encourage you to delay this until we're really ready.